The Los Angeles Rams were seconds away from headed to the Super Bowl for the third time in the Sean McVay era. And instead of just staying complacent and deciding to run it back and saying that they're just another year away, the Rams did something that very few teams actually do, and they went all in on this team. They traded for Myles Garrett, the best player in the NFL. They traded for Trent McDuffie, a top 10 corner in the NFL. They add Jalen Watson, and we're going to assume Aaron Donald is coming out of retirement. This is about as all in of an NFL team as I have ever seen, and I am so excited to break it down in today's video. But this is the final team preview of this series. We have gone through all 32 teams. This has been a huge undertaking, but you guys have been incredibly helpful and supportive throughout this entire journey. So just want to say thank you to all of you. And if you haven't subscribed already, be sure to do so. We've got so much NFL content coming out over the next few weeks. But guys, let's go ahead and let's kick off this Rams conversation with an incredible coaching staff led by who I think is the best individual head coach in the NFL, and that is Sean McVay. McVay is incredible. And obviously, we can say a lot of different things like he is going to run the wide zone, Shanahan style, play action, get the quarterback under center, marry the run and pass. All of that is there. You're going to see pre-snap motion. But I think the area of Sean McVay's coaching that has really impressed me the most over the last couple of years is how diverse the run game has become. This is a team that has really started to go more towards a gap-heavy run scheme, which is very fascinating because that's not something that you typically see from Kyle Shanahan. Yeah, they're still going to run zone, but in Kyren Williams' case, he carried the ball 303 times last year. 156 of those were gap. He's going to really be able to mix and match the run game. Yeah, they're going to run wide zone. They're going to run power. They're going to run duo. And he's done a really good job of adding to that next level of offensive coaching. You're starting to see so many teams prioritize heavy personnel on early downs, and the Rams are kind of at the forefront of that. The Rams led the NFL in 13 personnel last year, where they played 30% of their snaps from a 13 personnel alignment, and they led the league there. In terms of 12 personnel, they still ran it a good amount of time, but around 40% of the snaps, they are going to play with heavy personnel. You're going to see multiple tight ends on the field. They love that, and it's something that they've always tried to do. Cooper Kupp allowed them to not have to do it because he was such a good blocking receiver, but now they're kind of able to, they've really prioritized tight ends in the last couple of years. On top of that, they're going to really mix and match the play actions, a lot of crossing routes, get these receivers the ball in space where all of these guys can create after the catch. Sean McVay is one of the most innovative, brilliant offensive minds that the NFL has probably ever seen. And it feels like he's just getting better every year. And there's always a new wrinkle to his offense. So I couldn't be more high on Sean McVay as a head coach. But both of these coordinators, in and of their own rights, are fantastic. You got Nate Scheelhaase here, who surprisingly is back. It did not look like he was going to come back to the Rams, because it felt like he had one foot out the door, was taking a bunch of head coaching interviews. He has been the pass game coordinator and offensive assistant for the last 2 years. Prior to that was the offensive coordinator at Iowa State. He's going to be a head coach here very soon. I mean, you just see Sean McVay is very similar to Kyle Shanahan in that every other year there is a new coordinator headed out the door to take a head coaching job. Nate Scheelhaase is one of them. He's 35 years old. He's young. He's learned this system, and he's going to replace Mike LaFleur here to become the new offensive coordinator. I think he's going to do a really good job. And then Chris Shula as the defensive coordinator, just a phenomenal defensive coordinator. He's done a really good job here. He's been with the Rams since 2017, was made the defensive coordinator in 2024 to take over for Raheem Morris. And he's got a pretty aggressive scheme. They played a lot of different coverages last year. They're going to adapt, a very adaptable scheme, but it's a hybrid 3-4 defense where you're going to see some of that Brandon Staley, that blitz type of looks that you get from Raheem Morris. They're going to play a lot of unorthodox personnel. You're going to see a lot of dime usage. Split safeties, a staple in these types of defense, and they're going to bring a lot of loops and stunts and find ways to manufacture pressures for some of these interior. Again, Chris Shula is another guy that I thought very easily could have gotten hired as a head coach candidate, but didn't. And so you basically have, and I know this is exaggerating, you can't do it this way, but you have 3 guys that I think will all be head coaches in the next 12 months. So this is a very, very good coaching staff, and you're led by the best coach in the NFL. And I think Chris Shula has done a phenomenal job with this defense that's been not particularly talented over the last couple of years. I think the interior has been good, and they've had good pass rush, but the second and third levels have really struggled. And this has still been a team that ranked 4th in defensive DVOA despite some of their problems. So this is a phenomenal coaching staff, and it just leads us into one of the most loaded rosters you're ever going to see. Matthew Stafford is coming off a phenomenal season where he won the MVP for the first time in his career, was pretty much everything you could have asked from Matthew Stafford as a passer. Threw 52 touchdowns, including the playoffs, 46 in the regular season, 9 touchdowns, threw for 5,600 yards. Again, that is including the playoffs here. I mean, what more is there to say about Matthew Stafford? Maybe the accuracy still, he can miss some throws here and there. That's about the only nitpick that I have. I think Matthew Stafford is one of the smartest quarterbacks that we have in the NFL. He's so cerebral. He reads everything so well. He's one of the highest level processors that you're going to find. Just can pick defenses apart, takes his checkdowns, still has a ridiculous arm, and can sling it to all 3 levels of the field. I think he has got ridiculous traits in that phase. I think he can absolutely make an impact there. He's got great pocket presence, just a 12% pressure to sack rate, which is awesome. He's got a lightning quick release, and it feels like he's getting better with age, which is crazy to say because Matthew Stafford in his prime was one of the most impressive quarterbacks in the league, but he's thrown 50 touchdowns in his career twice, and both of those have been during his Rams tenure. I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's coming off the best season of his career. Now, what you worry about with Matthew Stafford is, has he peaked, right? He's going to be 39 years old in February. He clearly is not the athlete, and not that he ever created with his legs, but he's not really going to be much of an athlete and be able to create out of structure. And this very easily could be the last rodeo for Matthew Stafford. He's dealt with injuries over the last few years. That is something you have to keep in mind. The Rams certainly kept that in mind when they took Ty Simpson with their first round pick. I'm not going to break down Ty Simpson in this video. I don't think it was a smart pick, and we'll talk about why here in a little bit. But that's your backup. That's your quarterback of the future. I don't think it hurts to take a quarterback. But given how all in this team already is, you had 2 first-round picks. Just go take another receiver, because as we'll talk about, this receiving room, as good as it is, has major question marks for me. You just hope Matthew Stafford can stay healthy, because if he gets injured, it would certainly derail this Rams season that is on pace to be special. Stetson Bennett is your QB3 here, and he's a fine floor raiser, I guess, but never was a big Stetson Bennett fan. This is an awesome quarterback room. Matthew Stafford is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL and immediately elevates this offense. But what makes this offense even better is, you've got a great passing game where we'll talk about the weapons. Their run game over the last couple of years has really developed into being really special. And it's because Kyren Williams has emerged as a top 10 running back in the NFL. Kyren Williams is not the biggest running back. He's not the fastest running back. But he does so many different things that are so impressive from a rushing standpoint. He's really good after contact, where he averages over 3 yards after contact per attempt. He's pretty shifty and light on his feet, can force guys to miss, and he's got incredible vision. This is a guy that he sees rushing lanes before they open up. He's decisive as a runner. He anticipates rushing lanes, can hit the hole. He's got really good, like I said, contact balance, shiftiness, All of that is there. He's a pretty good receiving option for this team as well. He does a lot of things that you really like. And while he might not have the craziest long speed, his longest run of the year was 34 yards. His longest run of his career is 56 yards. He's not going to take the top off the defense. He's not going to do a lot of that type of stuff for you. But he is a damn good running back and one that elevates the floor of your run game because of that decisiveness, quickness, and vision, and it makes Kyren Williams incredibly underrated. And then the rest of this backfield, Blake Corum is a very similar type of running back. Blake Corum was a legend at Michigan, was really good for this team last year, all things considered. Like, as your RB2, gets in the game, has an awesome game week 14 against Arizona where he goes for 128 and 2 touchdowns. Corum, very similarly, undersized, but a guy that has good overall contact balance. Shiftiness is there, but I think he's got a little bit more explosiveness and long speed. Not crazy long speed, but it's certainly in there. And as an RB2, I definitely think he complements what you have in Kyren Williams. Again, he's a really solid player. You have Ronnie Rivers here who will do some special teams work. And then Jarquez Hunter really interests me. I liked Jarquez Hunter a good bit coming out of Auburn. They have a type at running back. Jarquez Hunter did not play last year. He is a 5'10", 209-pound running back that has got good vision. He's got great contact balance, but not a great athlete. Tell me if you've heard that one before. This is an awesome running game. They've got a lot of different players that they can move around, and they all kind of can run a variety of different schemes. So I think they've got a top 10 running game in the league. And then the receiving room. Now, this is the area that I have the most concern about the Rams offensively. Because, look, Puka Nacua is an unbelievable wide receiver. I have no negatives to say about Puka Nacua, the football player. What more could you ask from Puka Nacua? He had over 2,000 yards this season, including the playoffs, 153 receptions. I mean, Puka Nacua as a 5th-round pick is one of the greatest draft picks in the history of at least the last 10 years. I'm not going to say all time, but like Puka Nacua is on an unbelievable trajectory with his career where he is just he does everything. I mean, he's got unbelievable hands. He had just 5 drops on 200 targets, which is ridiculous. His contested catch numbers, 47 contested targets. He came down with 30 of them for a 64% contested catch rate. He played 36% of his snaps in the slot. He played the other 60% out wide, so he gives you inside-outside versatility. He's one of the best blocking receivers in the NFL, where I think he is phenomenal and really helps this run game out even more. He's got some of the best acrobatic catches you're going to find. He's an incredible route runner, a guy that can create separation all 3 levels of the field. He does a lot of that work in the short to intermediate part of the field. But, I mean, I don't have any negatives to say about Puka Nacua. He's an unbelievable talent that feels like he's still getting better. And it's crazy to say. However, you have to start questioning some of the off-field stuff. Like, there's just some little things here and there that you kind of have to keep in the back of your mind. And that does worry me if you get into the playoffs and Puka Nacua does something stupid and ends up having to miss a game or 2. Injuries have hurt him. Like, he got hurt in 2024. I don't think he's injury prone, but because of the physicality that he plays with, he is more susceptible to getting hurt, in my opinion. I don't have anything negative to say about Puka Nacua as a football player. I think he's unbelievable, one of the best players in the National Football League. And then Devontae Adams as your number 2, who is just a really great compliment where you get Puka Nacua, who's more of that physical type of receiver. Devontae Adams, like, not that he's not physical, like he can win some contested catches for the most part. Like, it started to regress. But Devontae Adams, what he is best at is the quickness that he plays with. He's got some of the best footwork. He runs incredible fade routes. He's a really good separator. He's got great twitch. And he fits a really nice role here. Not a great blocker. He did struggle with drops last season where he had about a 12% drop rate, 9 drops on the season. There's probably some regression. He'll be 34 years old in December. You're not expecting him to do this forever. He was missed some time due to injury. All of that is valid. Devontae Adams played 58% of this team's snaps. That's your top two receivers. Now, here's the thing with the Rams. They will play 12 personnel. They'll play 13 personnel. So they won't play with as many receivers on the field. That's fine. But I don't think they have a type at receivers. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt here. I don't love the depth here. And if you have an injury for Devontae Adams or Puka Nacua, I'm not confident that they're going to be able to stay afloat. Jordan Whittington is probably the next guy in the room. He's a big, physical, really good blocker, strong hands, kind of it. I don't think he's a superstar route runner. I don't think he's the most overly physical, but very similar to he's like a Kroger version of Puka Nacua, I guess. Very similar, physical play style. Kanata Mumpfield is a good player. I do like him a good bit. I think he's got probably some of the best athleticism of this group. Strong hands, 24 years old. Maybe he can hit in year two. You draft CJ Daniels in the 6th round. Maybe there's some upside there. You have Xavier Smith, who's played here a little bit. I don't love the group. I really don't. And if I was Les Snead, and I'm not doubting Les Snead, he's one of the best general managers in the sport, and any sport for that matter, I probably would have targeted another receiver earlier. They take Max Clare in the 2nd round. I definitely disagreed with that pick. He took Keegan Trost in the 3rd round. I didn't agree with that pick. There were some picks that this team made that I was like, just take another receiver. It doesn't hurt to just add another guy here. And if there's an injury, which you do have to be concerned about here, I don't think it would derail this season, but I think it holds this team back from being the number 1 offense in the league, which is where they were last season. So we'll see what they can do. Let's talk about this tight end room. We talked about it. They're going to play a bunch of different players here. Colby Parkinson is going to be the lead tight end because of his versatility. I think Colby Parkinson, he is a 6'7", 251-pound tight end. Historically been a really consistent blocker. Wasn't a great blocker this past season for the Rams, at least in pass protection. As a run blocker, was much better. He's going to be able to give you a little bit as a receiver. Not a ton. He had 560 yards, 9 touchdowns, both of which were career highs. Big red zone target. There's some upside there. I think he's the guy that will play the most here. And you feel pretty decent about Colby Parkinson. He played 58% of their snaps. Outside of him, you've got Tyler Higbee, who's been here forever, it feels like. Really solid, do-it-all type of tight end as well. Is he this superstar blocker? No. Is he a superstar receiver? Also no. He's entering year 11, I believe, here. And he can do a little bit of everything. He's getting a little bit older. Still an above average blocker, an above average receiver. I like that. And then you've got these 2 second-round picks. Terrence Ferguson, who you drafted last year. I was a big Terrence Ferguson fan coming out of the draft. I thought that he was by far their best receiving tight end. When he saw the field, there were some flashes of him being a really dynamic receiver. I think he's a great athlete. I think he moves really well. He can definitely stretch the seam vertically. He's got strong hands. The thing with Terrence Ferguson now I'm worried about is he going to get roadblocked? I don't think he's a superstar athlete. Did perform really well as a blocker for this team, especially in pass protection. He looked really solid in that phase. As a run blocker, there were some moments. Again, they'll probably play all 3 of those guys a good bit. And then your other tight end is going to be Max Clare, who this team drafted out of Ohio State. Max Clare is a really interesting player because going into the season, Max Clare was a player that many people thought was the number 1 tight end in the draft class. He did not have a particularly good season for Ohio State, and I had him outside of my top 100 entirely. I think he's a good athlete, a great route runner, but he's just not much of a blocking threat. I think he's strictly going to be a receiving tight end. So if they want to use a receiving tight end instead of that 3rd receiver, Max Clare's the guy to do it. And even in the preseason, he had, I want to say, 7 catches in the preseason game. So there is some potential that he could get out onto the field. Yeah, he had 7 receptions for 37 yards. He might see the field as a receiving entity for this team this year, but I don't really expect it. I think we'll see the other 4 or 3 guys above him, but it's a good tight end room. A lot of different play styles, but they clearly have a type there. Well, let's talk about this offensive line, which is a really fun group. I don't think it's anything spectacular, but you've got enough that I feel really good about. Now, the first thing that you do kind of have to worry about is Alaric Jackson. He's under review right now by the NFL, could be facing a multi-game suspension. That would be a huge blow to this team because I think Alaric Jackson has really emerged as one of the more underappreciated tackles in the league. Like, he's not the biggest guy. He's just 285 pounds, but he's a great run blocker. I think that is the thing that you really like about him. He's a former undrafted free agent that has just gotten better every year. Pass blocking efficiency is good. He's a really solid run blocker because of the athleticism. He is a little tall, can get a little grabby at times. If he misses time, though, like, the depth here is not very good. And we'll talk about that in a second. But you feel pretty good about Alaric Jackson as your starter. Steve Avila at left guard, another player that I've always been a big fan of. He's a big reason why I think they play more gap. He was so powerful coming out of TCU, and I don't think he's the best zone run blocker, but for the power run blocks that they really try to prioritize, like, I think he's really good and is awesome in that phase. He's been a really consistent run blocker really since the moment he stepped foot onto the turf for the Rams, and I like that a good bit. You got Coleman Shelton at your center, another player that I think is really solid. Probably the weak point of this line, but still a guy that I think is an above average player. The pass protection with him is hit or miss, but for the most part, he's been a pretty consistent pass blocker. He is a good run blocker, not a superstar athlete by any means, but as your weak link and a guy that's going to just play, he played 99% of their snaps last year. I like Coleman Shelton. Kevin Dotson is probably this team's best offensive lineman, their right guard. He's awesome. I mean, an incredible run blocking guard, 6'4", 321, a guy that the Steelers just gave up on too early. Like, he's been a really stable player for this team, can pass protect, can run block. He's pretty efficient, doesn't get penalized. Like, he's probably your best offensive lineman. And then Warren McClendon. Really interesting story here because the other position that the Rams, I think, could have targeted in the first round of this draft was a tackle. Warren McClendon was a 5th-round pick out of Georgia. He stepped on in week 5, ended up taking over as the starting right tackle. First year as a full-time starter and was really good. He allowed just 23 pressures on 542 pass blocking snaps. He's a good athlete, can run block, and he's 25 years old. Warren McClendon might be one of the big breakout candidates of the year, and if he can take another step up, he might solidify himself as a top 10 right tackle. He looked really, really good in those snaps. Now, we mentioned that this team doesn't have a lot of offensive line depth. You've got David Quessenberry, who's kind of bounced around the league. He's played in Minnesota, and they bring him in from the previously mentioned Minnesota Vikings. He's probably your best option in terms of a swing tackle, but hasn't played like legitimate snaps since 2021, where he played a bunch for the Titans. Always been a pretty stable player, though. Like, as far as swing tackles go, it could be worse. I'm still really holding out hope that Bo Limmer might develop into being this team's best, like, center. I loved him coming out of Arkansas. He's a good run blocker. He plays with nastiness, but just hasn't developed as a pass blocker really whatsoever. And even in the limited snaps he did play last year, wasn't great. You've got Justin Didich, who is on the NFI list right now, has a non-football injury. And then your 3rd-round pick in Keegan Trost, who I liked Keegan Trost again. I thought he was a pretty underrated player in this draft class. Had a 4th to 5th round grade on him, but a guy that has strong grip strength. He has the ability to anchor. He's got good hands. Footwork is there. I like him a good bit, but I like him much better as a guard. So You hope Alaire Jackson's good to go and he doesn't get suspended, but it is something to keep in the back of your mind. This is the best offense in the NFL, though. From top to bottom, you've got an elite quarterback, a great run game, a great offensive coordinator, two really good receivers, and a top 10-ish offensive line. Not a lot of negatives to say about this Rams offense. But let's pivot over to the defense, where, my Lord, what a difference an offseason makes. They make the blockbuster trade to acquire Myles Garrett in June. And for those of you that haven't followed my work for a while, Myles Garrett has been one of my favorite players in the NFL. I think 3 days before the trade happened, I had recorded my Browns preview. I picked the Browns to win like 6 games because I was that high on what Myles Garrett was going to be able to bring to that team. Well, he's gone now. He's on the Rams, who already have a crazy good pass rush. Myles Garrett is a special talent that is one of the best players in the history of the NFL. I mean, what's there to say that hasn't been already said about Myles Garrett? He's coming off a season where he broke the sack record with 23 sacks, a 17% pressure rate, 81 pressures. He had, obviously, the Defensive Player of the Year award was basically a lock because he broke the sack record. What's there not to say about Myles Garrett? I mean, the guy's 280 pounds. He moves like he's 250. He's a ridiculously explosive athlete that has the best bend in the NFL. He can win with a unbelievable bull rush there. He can just work through the chest of offensive linemen. He's got long arms. He's got, obviously, I mentioned the bend and the speed to challenge the outside shoulder of offensive tackles. He's got that ability to counter inside. He's got so many pass rush moves. And on top of all of it, like as unbelievable as a pass rusher as Myles Garrett is, he's maybe the best run defending edge rusher in the NFL also. Like this guy doesn't have any flaws. And I mean that so sincerely. He has great power. He takes on blocks well. He tackles so consistently. Had just 2 missed tackles in 2025. I mean, you could have given up 5 first-round picks for Myles Garrett. And it depends how you look at it. They gave up 1 first-round pick. They gave up Jared Verse, who I think is probably worth 2 first-round picks in and of his own right. You gave up a second. You gave up a third. You still kind of got away with highway robbery, in my opinion, because you got who, in my opinion, is the best player in the NFL, regardless of position. I know quarterbacks, they get a tax because they're the most important position. Myles Garrett is the best player in the NFL at one of the most important positions in the NFL. And just an absolute home run for the Rams to add that guy to Byron Young, who is an awesome pass rusher. And that's the other thing about Myles Garrett that we're going to talk about here in a second. There was no help for him in Cleveland. He broke the sack record when they were down in a lot of games because the Browns were so bad. They didn't really have that ability to get into these true pass sets against him because the Browns were losing and teams were able to just run the ball in the second half against them. That's not going to be the case here in LA. Like their offense will blow teams out, but like that's kind of the point. Their offense will be good. Teams will be coming from behind, and that's just going to allow him to tee off and get even more opportunities. He won't get 30 sacks, but would I be totally shocked if he gets even, like if he breaks his own record this year? No. I wouldn't. That's how good I think Myles Garrett is. And on this defensive line, too, where, yeah, you're going to double team Myles Garrett. Well, good luck with the rest of this group. Byron Young, he's undersized at 245 pounds. Ridiculous speed. He's coming off his career best season where he had a 15% pressure rate, 12 sacks on the season. A really good compliment to Myles Garrett. And now you've got 2 really like legitimate like speed rushers. Byron Young has 4.43 speed. He's got excellent bend. And as a run defender has really taken strides there as well. I like that. I also really like Josiah Stewart entering year 2 here, excuse me. He was a guy that was a little raw to me coming out of Michigan, but again, gave them good speed. He got on the field a little bit, 27 pressures, 3 sacks, kind of as a rotational piece for this team. I think he is only going to go up in production because of the Myles Garrett effect of this all. I mean, that's really the pass rush are the edge rushers that you have. I don't really think that there's much else you need, to be completely honest. I think you've got two legitimate superstars. But you pair that with the interior of this defensive line, and we're going to have the Aaron Donald conversation in this video, and we'll just start with Aaron Donald, because Aaron Donald, like, he's going to come back. It feels like all signs are pointing to Aaron Donald coming out of retirement, and I just can't imagine being an offensive lineman, waking up on a Sunday morning and being like, oh, dude, we got to play Myles Garrett and Aaron Donald this week. Aaron Donald is, Myles Garrett, I talked about how good he is from the edge rush position. That's what Aaron Donald was as an interior defensive lineman. Now, he hasn't played football in 2 years. Look, worst case scenario for Aaron Donald, he is a third down piece that you bring in as a designated pass rusher, and he's one of the best pass rushing interior defensive linemen we've ever seen. He's ridiculously strong. He can set up double moves. He's got explosiveness, speed. He checks all the boxes there as a pass rusher. Best case scenario, you get 2023 Aaron Donald back. And 2023 Aaron Donald was probably one of the worst seasons of his career because he had just 10 sacks on the year. 2021, he had 19 sacks. 2020, he had 17. I don't need to sell Rams fans on how much of an addition Aaron Donald would be, but whatever version of Aaron Donald you're getting is incredible, even if it is just a third down, go get us a stop, go get us after the quarterback. Because if you have a pass rush of Byron Young, Aaron Donald, Myles Garrett, and then Kobe Turner is the other player, I think you're getting pressure at least. It's going to be so difficult for teams to stop. Kobe Turner, we'll talk about him next here. An incredible player, another really big hit for this Rams front office on this defensive line. I think the tackling with Kobe Turner is a bit of an issue. He missed 22% of his tackles last year, but I really like what he brings as a pass rusher. He always had the pass rushing juice coming from that interior alignment at Wake Forest, had a 13% pressure rate, 57 pressures, 7 sacks. Really good player. I do really like what Kobe Turner brings. As a run defender, that's probably his weakness. I think you could live with that. You've got Braden Fisk as well, who just throw him into the mix here as another player that, as a rookie, was really good. I thought that you saw a lot of really high moments from him. He had 11 sacks. 2025, he did regress. Pretty telling regression from him. And yeah, he had just 50 pressures. He was down 9 pressures on the season. Had 6 less sacks. On top of that, it just didn't feel like he was winning as consistently. And again, I think the numbers back that up. Even though the pressure rate was higher, it just didn't feel like he was as disruptive. He's a good scheme fit for Chris Chula, who runs these stunts. And Braden Fisk, he does struggle because he's undersized, doesn't have long arms. And he misses a lot of tackles and is not a very impactful run defender. So that's what you worry about with him. But that's why you have Poona Ford on this team. Poona Ford is kind of just, he elevates the rest of this group because he's 5'11", he's 310 pounds, such a odd build for a defensive lineman. I don't know why the Chargers gave up on him because he came here, immediately made an impact. He's not much of a pass rusher, but his presence is felt on early downs. He takes up space. He's a good run defender. I think he's strong out on the line of scrimmage. That's a great third piece to have, and I don't think he's a bad pass rusher. And then you still have other players that I'm interested in. Ty Hamilton coming out of Nebraska. I liked his or coming out of Ohio State, excuse me. I liked some of his traits. I thought there were some upsides there for him. Played a little bit, wasn't awesome in his rookie season, but I do think there's a world he could develop. And then Tyler Davis, I really liked him coming out of Clemson a few years ago, and he started to see the field a little bit more and was pretty good for this team. I like what he brings in run defense. This is one of the most loaded defensive lines I think I can remember, even without Aaron Donald coming back. I just think they've got so many different pieces. We didn't even mention 7th round pick Tim Keenan, who I think is going to be a pretty impactful player here. This is a really, really, really good defensive line. And when you add the best player in the NFL and Aaron Donald, who you could argue is the best defensive player of all time, it's easy to see how the Rams are the Super Bowl favorites here. The linebacker room, they don't really ask a ton of these linebackers. This is the weakness of this defense right now, which if you're going to have a weakness on defense, it's linebackers. Nate Landman had a really good year for this team, though. Tackling could be a little bit better. He missed 25 tackles, but a solid player. I think he's instinctive. He made some plays for this team in run defense, 112 tackles. Not the best coverage linebacker, but he is instinctive. And I do think like he had some plays, wasn't targeted a ton in coverage. You can live with Nate Landman as your number one linebacker. I don't hate that. Omar Speights is a player that this front office really likes. He's really stiff, not a superstar athlete or anything, but he's a really good run defender, and that's why they like him. He just does not have the coverage chops, and I do think that does hurt him at times. But he's a really good run defender. He's strong, takes on blocks well. I like that. In terms of depth outside of that, like you get Grant Stewart from the Lions, sure. Sean Dolak, I liked coming out of Buffalo. They didn't play him a ton, but I think he's got some upside. It's a fine linebacker room. Nothing to get overly excited about, in my opinion, but certainly not a weakness of this team either. But we'll round it out with the secondary, where, again, you thought that the Myles Garrett trade was big. The secondary was pretty bad for this team down the stretch, and it is ultimately what I think cost them the Super Bowl. Sam Darnold had the game of his life against this team. So they looked in the mirror and they said, you know what? We got to go get a lockdown corner. We're going to trade for Trent McDuffie, who is a two-time Super Bowl champion with the Kansas City Chiefs, a guy that has always been one of my favorite corners in the league because I think he is it feels disrespectful to say he's a slightly toned-down version of Devon Witherspoon, but I also don't think it's an inaccurate take because Trent McDuffie, what's great about him, like early in his career, he was a slot corner. Like they played him in the slot. He played downhill. He's physical, a really good run defender. Over the last couple of years, Kansas City's had to kick him outside to the boundary. He's been really good. He's a little bit smaller. He can get beat a little bit, but like he's gotten better in coverage. He missed some time last year for the Chiefs. He doesn't have like the most elite of elite ball skills, but he's a shutdown boundary corner and a guy that I think it's hard for opposing players to get open against him because he's a really good, like smart, instinctive corner. I think he could play in a variety of zone coverages, and he's always been there. And then you get the other Chiefs corner in Jalen Watson, who I think is a little bit, I don't think he's better. He's more of a true boundary corner. He will also get beat in terms of reception percentage. Like the numbers are better for Jalen Watson, but he gave up some bigger gains. 2 interceptions, 3 pass breakups. He is a guy that's got some size. He's got some physicality, a good true boundary corner. As a former 7th round pick, like he's been a huge hit for the Kansas City defense, and they signed him in free agency. And immediately you got 2 starting corners where I don't think you had like one guy last year that you felt like you needed to start. It allows Emmanuel Forbes to fall into his natural spot, which is the first guy off the bench, in my opinion. I thought Emmanuel Forbes was good for this team last year. I know the grades aren't going to show it, but he made some big plays, had some plays on the football. He's so small and just gets bullied by bigger, more physical weapons. It's why the Commanders got rid of him. He's really bad against the run, missed 26% of his tackles. There's some problems there with Emmanuel Forbes, but I think his athleticism and just ball skills do play for you as like a depth corner. I like Azilian Hamilton as a depth piece, an undrafted guy out of Fresno State as well. In the nickel, this is a team that will play Quentin Lake in that role. Quentin Lake is a really good player that I don't think that the casual fan really talks enough about. He was awesome for this Rams team last year. Had 9 pass breakups, an interception, allowed just 64% when targeted. He's really versatile. A guy that played 535 snaps in the slot. They played him in the box. They played him at free safety. He's a former 6th round pick, but he defends the run well. He's got good coverage instincts. The Rams are really smart about the way they built this secondary, particularly the safeties. It's like, we don't need these crazy athletes. Just get us to smart, instinctive players. Quentin Lake absolutely checks that box, and I think it's a very similar situation to Cameron Curl, who did miss some time last year for this team. He played I take that back. He missed time the year before, but he played in 99% of the snaps. He is another player, like a former 7th-round pick to Washington, but he's a really heady defensive back. Another guy that probably more of a true free safety, but I like what he brings to the table. He's a really strong tackler. He defends the run well. He's got some decent ball skills. Not a crazy athlete. It's why he was a 7th-round pick, but I thought they kind of stole him from the Commanders in free agency. And when you talk about crazy athletes, like Cam Kinchin's tested so poorly. He was never a bad athlete. Like, I don't understand how he tested so badly. He is the difference maker in the safety room, in my opinion, as like that. He's just going to convert interceptions. He's a guy, again, true free safety. He's got speed, ball skills, physicality. Like, I really like that from him. That's a really good, like, trio of corners. In terms of, like, depth, I mean, you got Jalen McCullough, you got Tanner Ingle. Not a lot of depth there that I feel great about. But overall, it rounds out a secondary that is massively improved with the additions of McDuffie and Watson. Quentin Lake has gotten better every year. And it just rounds out an incredibly loaded defense to add on top of an incredibly loaded offense. There's not a weakness on this Rams team. I mean, the linebacker room, maybe that's a weakness. The receiver depth is a weakness, but you have two really good receivers at 1 and 2 that I think you can live with. There's so much to love about what this team has. You've got an elite quarterback, an elite play caller, an elite pass rush, a secondary that I think can be shut down. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that are going to pick the Rams to go 17-0 this year and go undefeated. And in all honesty, I do think that is a very realistic outcome. Like, there's not a game on this schedule that I look at and I'm like, yeah, they aren't going to be favored in that game. The Seattle game at Seattle Christmas Day will be very difficult. Outside of that, like, what else? Like, the Niners always play them tight. You get the Packers, I believe the day before Thanksgiving. That's a bit of a tough one. Outside of that, like, I think all these games are winnable. I'm not going to pick the Rams to go undefeated this year. I just don't think it'll happen. There's going to be some sort of injury. The NFL is so unpredictable. For all we know, they could lose to the Raiders week 7. But I think that this Rams team goes 15-2. Like, I don't see more than 2 losses on this schedule for them. I think they're so loaded. I think they've got all the pieces in place. And I think they've got as good a chance as anybody to win the Super Bowl this year. So that does it for the team preview series. I'd love to hear from you guys, Rams fans. Am I too high? Am I too low on this team? Do you think that they have what it takes to go win the Super Bowl? But leave a like on this video. Subscribe if you are new. We're closing in on 11,000. I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.